What is going on, guys? Noah Brewer here, back again with another banger, and today we're going to be going over retargeting. This is going to be a full training, everything that you need to know up until the point you do like $5 million in sales on retargeting is going to be in this video. I would even challenge to promise you that this may be the most valuable video on retargeting that you have ever seen, and this may be the most valuable video on retargeting out there. I know a lot of people don't talk about retargeting that much. They just kind of say like, oh yeah, it's good, you know, spend 50 bucks a day on it or whatever, but nobody really goes super in depth with it. And this is something that I started to master very early on in my Facebook ad and e-commerce career. Probably within 6 months of getting into it, I realized like, holy shit, there's a lot of things that you can do with retargeting that nobody really talks about. And I tested a lot of them out, and I really worked out the ways to make the most money using retargeting and figured out all the best ways to do it. So without further ado, let's get into the full training on retargeting. And yes, by the way, I have an old series called Retargeting 101. It was a 4-part series that I made a couple years ago. So this is also called Retargeting 101. It's kind of an updated version of that series. But I'm going to do all this in one video. So now we are in the beginner section. So we're going to do all parts in one video, but I am going to break it down by different sections. And I'm probably going to add chapters to this video so you can skip around. If you want to skip to a specific section that you want to learn about, then you can do that via the chapters. So we have the beginner section where I'm going to be covering what is retargeting, why it's so good, a little bit, different audiences you can make, stuff like that. And then in the intermediate section, I'm going to be going into the different types of ads that you can retarget with, and also the different types of strategies that you can use with retargeting. And then in the advanced section, you're just going to have to wait and see, but it is some really cool shit that, if you already have a winning product, you're probably going to want to know, and I promise you it will save you money and make you more money at the same time. Now, my goal here is to blow you guys away with all the crazy stuff that you can do with retargeting, so let's just jump right into it. What is retargeting and why is it so important? So retargeting essentially is exactly what it sounds like. You're showing ads to people who have already engaged with your brand, with your store in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's your page, your Instagram profile, your website, they added a product to their cart, it doesn't matter. You can target all of those. And the great thing about retargeting is the CPAs, the cost per acquisition, or the cost for getting a customer, is usually 25 to 50% less than targeting cold traffic. So once you have a scale going, once you're spending a bunch of money on cold traffic, it'll fill up your warm traffic audiences where, you can target the warm traffic, which is considered retargeting, and get 25 to 50% cheaper cost per purchases on your retargeting. So there's many ways that you can build your audiences. It doesn't only have to be from paid ads. You could be somebody who does mainly influencer marketing, and you have a bunch of people on your pixel from there. It could be paid ads. It could be organic social media, like if you're really good at growing your Instagram pages, or if you're going viral on TikTok and you're getting a bunch of website visitors from that. You can really get traffic from anywhere. It doesn't matter. As long as they hit your website, you will be able to retarget them. And the last thing which I want to say and embed it into your mind is retargeting is the easiest and most guaranteed way to make more money with your e-commerce store. Now, obviously that statement is only true if you're already pushing revenue. If you're not pushing revenue, retargeting is not really going to be that prevalent. But usually when somebody comes to me with a brand that they've been running for a while and they want help with their Facebook ads, the first thing that we will do is come up with a super in-depth retargeting plan and strategy on how we're going to increase their sales, increase their customer satisfaction, upsells. There's a lot of stuff that we can do that we'll get into in the intermediate section. So usually the first thing when a brand comes to us for help is we set up massive retargeting. Best example that I have to date is we had one brand come to us doing about $600K, $700K a month, and he was only spending about $1,000 a day on retargeting. Now we came in and we implemented maybe like another $2,000 to $3,000 a day in retargeting, and we increased his revenue by, I think it was about $60,000 in just a week. So like literally within a week of him bringing us on, we made him like an extra 20 grand in profit just by implementing some of the more basic parts of this video. So when can you start retargeting? What's the minimums? So usually the minimums is when you have about 1,000 events on a certain pixel event, or an internal Facebook event is when you can start retargeting. Or I would say if you're drop shipping and you're just running products, I would wait like 2 to 3 weeks into your scale, or at least until you have at least 50 to 100 sales before starting retargeting. Now, I do want to say that sometimes if you start too early, it might not work. I would say give it a shot. If you have 1,000 website visitors and just a few sales, give it a shot, see how it goes. If it doesn't work, it doesn't matter that much because you can always stop it and try again later on once you have more data. One thing you don't want to do is you don't want to wait too long and end up being, doing $1,000 a day in sales and having no retargeting set up, because that's just stupid and you're leaving a lot of money on the table. So you don't necessarily want to start too early, but you also don't want to start too late. So I say for the most part, if you have a winning product, just give it a shot. And if it doesn't work, then you can wait a little bit longer and test it again. If it does work, then fine, keep going with it. So I want to talk about the success rate of retargeting so that you have the best expectation going into retargeting. And I just want to say that retargeting almost always works. I have seen it not work on certain campaigns or certain ads, certain situations, but eventually, usually it does work. Sometimes it's as simple as just duplicating it and trying it again. It'll hit a different pocket of audience and optimize better. Sometimes you can try it with different variations of audiences, different ads, stuff like that. Or you could just be too early to be doing retargeting. That could also be a reason. But I would usually say if you can't get your retargeting to work, it is 100% worth retesting it over and over again and seeing if you can get it to work. Because like I said, almost every scenario, it ends up working. All right, let's move on to the intermediate section of this training. I hope you're following along so far. If you are, leave a comment, leave a like, leave a subscribe. And I'm also trying to get more people over to my Instagram because I post a lot of stories there, giving a lot of value. You can also DM me with any questions that you have going along with this training or any of the other trainings on my YouTube channel. So different types of retargeting ads. We're talking about the actual posts that you use. Obviously, we have same post retargeting. This is where you retarget your audiences with your main ad. You don't really change anything. You don't change the ad copy. You don't change the video. This is perfectly fine to do, and this is usually how I start out with retargeting, is just keeping everything the same, just so that we can have a control and a variable with the audience and nothing changes with the ad. I would probably recommend starting out using the same post as well. Now you can use the same post, and then in the ad copy you can add a discount code. These also work really, really well too, especially if it's Black Friday. This is something that I like doing a lot. Or if it's some holiday, you can just add like a holiday sale to the bottom of your ad copy, and it usually works out pretty good. Now you have, same ad video, different ad copy, same ad video. Obviously there's a lot of variations that you can do here. This is where, split testing and doing multiple ads under each ad set is going to help you out a lot. Is just figuring out what's going to work the best with your retargeting. One thing I didn't put on this list is you can also retarget using image ads. So if your main ad is a video, you can retarget using images. If your main ad is an image, you can retarget using videos. So even though I didn't write it here, that's another one that just popped up into my mind that I've had success with. Also different platforms, like most of our main ads are going to be Facebook feed, Instagram feed, whereas your retargeting, you can try running stories, you can do marketplace, suggested videos, messenger. You can try out all the different platforms on there as well and do different variations of ads for those. So right there alone, I just gave you probably about 50 different variations of ads that you can go out and split test with your retargeting. So if you're sitting there like, oh, I don't know how to spend 20% of my ad spend on retargeting, you have no excuse to not utilize retargeting after watching this video. I'm literally giving you everything that you need to know to absolutely be a beast with retargeting. So let's talk a little bit about retargeting strategies, different intentions when you're retargeting. Obviously, we have the conversions. This is going to be your bread and butter of retargeting. This is essentially retargeting people to drive more sales. And this is probably where you should spend the most of your money on retargeting. So we're not going to go too in depth on this because it's pretty obvious. It's pretty much what this whole video is about. The next strategy is branding. This is something that a lot of people don't talk about, but we have done it with clients in the past. And this is essentially just spending money on ads to keep your brand or your product fresh in people's minds. So, literally the goal of this is just to, show your ad to people, just to have them see your ad and engage with your ad. So, you're going to optimize for clicks, you're going to optimize for video views, reach, stuff like that, page likes, whatever it is, just to keep people inside of your world, keep people thinking about you, big brands spend hundreds of millions of dollars per year doing this. Think of all the times you see the Coca-Cola logo just going throughout your day. Billboards, commercials, they have sponsorships with all these different people. That's essentially branding marketing. It's not made to get you to go out and buy a bottle of Coke. It's made to keep you thinking about Coca-Cola. So obviously one of the goals with this is being super omnipresent. So every single placement, you want to follow people around everywhere that they go. And even depending on your size, like if you're a larger brand, it could be worth, moving over to TikTok ads, Snapchat ads, Google ads, just to get your pixel installed so that you can also retarget on those platforms. Even if you're not, running cold traffic with, Google ads, for example, it could be worth just making an account there and spending, $50 a day just so that your retargeting ads are showing on Google. And another thing in terms of like the actual ads that you're going to want to show in these, it's going to be like flex content where you're like showing off how cool your product is, how cool your brand is. You can talk about your mission. You can show off, the features and benefits of your products, yes, but it's more branding, right? Like you're trying to get people to fall in love with your company, your product, whatever it is. These branding ads are also very helpful when you're at a high scale because it keeps people engaged with your brand, which fills up your other retargeting audiences, so that when you go to, run a retargeting ad with the goal of conversions, you have a bunch of fresh people in those retargeting audiences. Another thing is, depending on your size, I would only recommend doing this if you're a really big brand and you really value, the long-term benefits of advertising, is you can run these branding style ads straight to cold traffic. Now this is cool to do if you are a big brand, but I wouldn't recommend doing it if you're just drop shipping and you're doing like under $1 million a month. It's not really worth it. But I do want to keep this broad and valuable for everybody potentially watching this. So the next strategy is customer satisfaction. I've talked about this one a few times on my channel, and this is probably the most interesting and one of the better ways to improve your feedback score on Facebook. So this is essentially just retargeting people who purchased from you in order to say thank you and offer extra support. You can also retarget people with, how-to videos or tutorials if your product has like a setup, or if there's some specific ways that they can use the product. You can also do, 5 best ways to utilize X product. And you can just show those ads to people that bought from you, like just to keep providing them with more value. Make sure that they're utilizing your products to their best abilities. And if they have any issues, make sure that they know that you're there to support them. So I would say this is really, really important if you're doing over $2,000 per day in revenue, especially if most of it is coming from Facebook ads, because your feedback score is a huge part of your longevity with Facebook. And you need to keep your customers happy, or else Facebook is going to wave the ban hammer at you for having a bad feedback score. And when you do run these ads, you better have your customer support figured out, because you're probably going to be getting a ton of emails. But that is the point, is to get people to reach out to you with their issues and not just sit at home and start hating you because they weren't happy. Encourage them to reach out to you and show that you're showing the initiative to care about them. All right, obviously we have the reorder / upsell if you have a consumable product, or if you have a product that has, familiar products that you can upsell or downsell or whatever. This is just retargeting people that have purchased from you in order to get them to buy another product, essentially. Pretty simple, don't need to go super in-depth on this one. Retargeting strategies, this is probably one of the most long-term valuable strategies other than the customer satisfaction, and that is social media. Retargeting all of your audiences at once. It doesn't matter who it is. It can be, bottom level engagement, and it can be top level of purchases. You retarget absolutely everybody in your audiences, and you push them to your social media accounts. This, of course, feeds your long-term stability, and it feeds more people into your organic sales channels so that you can continue to market to them organically for free. So, for example, if somebody sees your ad and then goes and follows your Instagram, you're going to pay for them to take that action. But when you go to your Instagram and you post a story ad on your Instagram, that doesn't cost you any money, and that same person sees your story ads. So this is really good if you value the long-term, revenue streams of your brand, because you can build up your organic following and, be able to remarket to those people for free via story posts, feed posts. That's just Instagram as an example as well, where you can do it for Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Snapchat, Twitter, whatever social media accounts you feel like you're best on and you want to build an audience on. You can run ads and tell people to go follow those platforms. So I want to touch a little bit on creative audiences. This is something that really nobody talks about as well, and this hopefully is one of the things that's going to blow your mind. Earlier we mentioned all the different audiences that you can target. You got your engagement audiences, you have your page view, add to cart, checkouts, purchases, time spent, stuff like that. But we didn't get into actual creative audiences and how you can get creative with your targeting and your audiences to get the best results. So these can be helpful depending on what your goal is, and we'll get into in the advanced section a little bit how you can utilize these to an even crazier extent and get even better results and better targeting options out of your audiences. But let's cover the basic ones for now. So one thing I want to point out is, which will kind of get you to understand what's going on here, is along with targeting audiences, you can also exclude audiences. So this is something that's really cool, and I feel like most people, when they see it, they don't really think anything of it, but this allows you to do a lot of things. You can retarget people who viewed your page and then exclude people that added to their cart. So when you do a normal page view retargeting campaign, all you're doing is retargeting everybody who visited your website. This is going to include people that, went and purchased. This is going to include people that added to their cart. So what you can do is you can exclude add to carts and you can exclude purchases. And this is going to be an audience of people who strictly viewed your website and didn't do anything else. You can also do this with people who viewed your video ad but didn't go to your website. That's one of the other really good audiences that I've ran in the past. You can do add to carts and exclude checkouts. You can do checkouts and exclude purchases. So you can run like abandoned checkouts. So people that went to your website, added to their cart, fill out their information, and then didn't end up purchasing. Not only can you send them abandoned cart flows through Klaviyo and SMS Bump and stuff like that, but you can also now retarget them with an abandoned cart ad, which I think is pretty cool and pretty powerful. And if you don't know about this, now you do, and you have no excuse not to do it. All right, let's get into the more advanced section. Now, I only have a couple things that I want to talk about in this section, but they are super valuable, especially if you're pushing a bunch of revenue already. One thing that you need to understand is that retargeting will usually spend the full budget no matter how many people are in your audience. So, for example, if I have 1,000 people in my audience, I could spend $20 marketing to those 1,000 people, and it'll reach the 1,000 people, and it'll spend the $20. But if I only had 100 people in that audience and I put a budget of $20 per day, it's likely that I'll still spend that $20 and it will only reach 100 people. So that raises the question, how much can you actually spend on retargeting while maintaining, a 1 to 3 frequency? For this example, we're going to talk about a 1 frequency, and there's a little calculation that you can do that allows you to calculate how much you can actually spend on retargeting without, over flooding your audiences and keeping your CPMs at a reasonable level. So the equation is really hard to come up with, but essentially, if you understand CPMs, you'll be able to figure it out. So in the example that we have here, just to keep the numbers easy, I chose some, easy numbers here. So your first step is to start a basic retargeting campaign, and then you need to know your average CPM for a retargeting campaign. And yes, guys, this is one of the very rare circumstances where I will ask you to actually look at your CPMs. As you know, I'm all about putting your focus on where it matters, and in this situation, CPMs do matter because you don't want to spend too much on retargeting. Once you know your average CPM, in this example, it is going to be $5. Then you have to look at your daily reach over 7 days. So you're going to average out your daily reach over 7 days. So for this example, over 7 days, we reached 70,000 people, and divide that by 7, we get 10,000 people per day. So with a CPM of $5 and a reach of 10,000 people per day on cold traffic, by the way, don't include your retargeting reach on this. That gives us a daily ad spend limit on retargeting to maintain a 1 frequency of $50 per day. Now a CPM is cost per 1,000 impressions. So since we had 10,000 impressions, you divide 10,000 by 1,000 and we get 10, and then we do 5 times 10, we get $50. So if you're reaching 10,000 people per day with your advertising, you can spend, up to $50 per day on retargeting and still maintain a 1 frequency. I know this is a little bit confusing, but I hope that you're following along, and you can leave any questions down below, or you can send me a DM on Instagram. So let's take a look at a real example. Remember the example that I talked about earlier where we made this guy an extra 60 grand in the first 7 days? We ran this equation with him just because we were curious, how much money we could legitimately spend on advertising without running up the frequency and overloading his brand. And his retargeting on average was about $6, his retargeting CPM, and his daily reach over 7 days was 1.6 million people. So, to give you an idea, he was reaching about 50 million people per month. So with these numbers, we came to the conclusion that we could spend up to $9,600 per day with retargeting. And in order to make that 60 grand for him in that 1 week span, we actually only added like $2,000 to $3,000 per day in spend to his retargeting. So, we were spending like $3,000 to $4,000 a day on retargeting at that time. And as you can see from these numbers on the screen, when we ran our calculations, we weren't even scraping half of what we could have been spending on retargeting. So, this is a fun number to run if you're scaling, just to see how far you can push retargeting. And you could see how, on a large scale store, how all these little strategies and crazy tactics will become helpful, because how the hell do you spend $10,000 a day on retargeting? It's not an easy thing to do. And also keep in mind that this is for one single day. We're running these numbers assuming a 1 frequency for 1 day. And for this specific client, our time frames were on 180 days. So our audiences were huge, and we probably could spend way more than $10,000 per day, at least for a few weeks, to catch up with all the people that are in the audience. But I wanted to run the example for 1 frequency in 1 day just to keep it easy. And there's a lot of complicated ways that you can go about this. But, I just wanted to keep things easy. So speaking of time frames, I want to get into time frames a little bit, because this is more of an advanced strategy, but it is a strategy that, most people out there scaling a product can utilize, and it does become helpful at some point in the scaling process. So obviously, if you've done Facebook ad retargeting before, you know that it asks you, what time frame you're trying to retarget your audience for. So, you can do anywhere from 0 to 365 days, depending on where the audience is coming from. So if it is a pixel event, meaning if it's an event that goes on your website or any external source, you can retarget people for up to 180 days. So it's about 6 months. So you can retarget people that visit your website over the last 6 months. If it's an internal Facebook event, such as, Facebook page views, Instagram views, video views, you can do it for up to a year. Now, I think this has something to do with the legalities of holding data and stuff like that. I don't want to get into it, but what this means is, you can make any time frame between 0 and 180 days and retarget people inside of that time frame. So obviously, I've already tested a shitload of different time frames, and I figured out what the best ones were to actually target. So I listed them here. You have 1 day, which is really good if you're pushing a lot of revenue. That's going to be your most fresh audience, everybody that's engaging or visiting your website in the past 24 hours. You can retarget those people. And then you have 3 day, 7 day, 14 day, 30, 60, 90, 180, and 365. So 180 and 365 are really, really good to start with. I'd say if your audiences are not absolutely massive, I would just do those and not get too fancy with it until your audiences start getting bigger, or until you're running ads for a little bit longer. And once you're in it for a few months, then you can start doing, 60-day retargeting, 30-day, 7-day, 3-day, all those other smaller ones. So I know that this video has been long, and I'm going to leave you off on an absolute bang. Earlier we talked a little bit about creative audiences and how you can get a little bit more creative with your targeting to get better results. Now I want to go into something super in-depth that honestly 99% of you probably have no reason of knowing, but since since me and my team manage ads for these really massive stores that are doing $1 million a month or more, this is something that we actually do utilize, and it gets really, really good results. So if you've ever had the question, what are these guys doing that, what kind of stuff can you do at that level? Because it does get really crazy and really in-depth. And one of those things is creative audiences using timeframes. So like I said, you can have a 14-day and a 7-day. So I'm going to give you a few examples. It's really hard to explain how this works, but hopefully you get it by the end of these 2 examples. So you can target a page view 14 audience and exclude a page view 7 audience. So this is going to be an audience of people who viewed your website a week ago, but hasn't revisited your website in the past 7 days. So this is really crazy shit, and these kinds of audiences really only work in certain circumstances. But one that I would say is like more prevalent is if you're targeting reorders or upsells, or if you're doing customer satisfaction, or trying to bring people back into your brand so that they do more business with you. One thing that you can do is you can target target your mass purchasers of 180 days, and then you can exclude 60 days or you can exclude 90 days. So what this is going to do is it's going to be people that have purchased from you, 2 or more months ago or 3 or more months ago and haven't came back since. So, for example, if I go to your website and buy something today and then I just forget about you for 60 days, and I never visit your website, never visit your Instagram page, I just completely forget about you entirely, building an audience like this or building an ad set like this is going to allow you to show ads to me specifically for that purpose, to re-engage me, to get me back into your world as a brand and have me potentially buy from you again or recommend you to a friend or follow your social medias, whatever the goal is. So I know that this training was a lot of information, and unless you have a winning product and you're scaling, or if you have a pretty large brand, a lot of the stuff in here isn't going to be that implementable for you. But I thought it would be cool to share anyways, because I was just thinking the other day, like, I should probably make an updated retargeting 101 training. And I was also just blown away looking back at all the different things that we do with retargeting that we don't really talk about. Now, I hope that you found this video valuable. If you did, like I said, leave a like, leave a comment, leave a subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And of course, go follow my Instagram as I post more content over there. And you can actually send me a message if you have any questions or you just want to chat about e-commerce. My username is Noah D. Brewer, and I'm happy to see you over there. So I hope you enjoyed. That's it for this video. This is Noah Brewer, and I'm out. Peace.